Blogging to get new customers. Is it worth it?
Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek podcast, bringing you the latest information on pests, products, and politics from today's leading industry sources to help you start, manage, and grow your pest control business.
Hey there, and welcome to another edition of the Pest Geek podcast. This is Frank Hernandez, your Pest Geek. I'm so glad you're here. I'm glad I'm here. Every day that I wake up, I'm so glad I'm here. Hey, listen, I wanted to talk to you this week about blogging for customers. And I didn't want to do this podcast until I actually had some firsthand experience in this matter. And I've been blogging now for about a year and a half. And I got to tell you, it has been grueling. But I wanted to talk about it because a lot of people, there are a lot of podcasts out there actually on blogging that are actually very good. And a lot of the things that most people blog about, or the issue of blogging, has to do more with e-commerce, has to do more with how to sell the latest book, the latest video on how to do something, the issue with selling affiliate products. Most of the blogging is done for that purpose. But in our industry, as far as the service industry goes, there is very little blogging going on in the service industry that actually helps you get new customers or training on that. And I wanted to have some experience on that before I brought this podcast on the air. I want to give a special shout out to Adam Montgomery, who lives in Northport, Alabama. He's liked us on Facebook for quite a while, and I just wanted to give you a shout out. Thank you for liking the podcast and for listening to us. If you're listening to this podcast on a regular basis from Northport, Alabama, thank you so much. Also, I wanted to thank ZoeCon Central at zoecon.com. Also, they follow us now on Twitter. So, hey, our first big brand that's following us on Twitter. So thank you. If you're listening to the podcast, I just gave you a huge plug. So thank you. Thank you for that. If you want to be part of this podcast, you want to leave a comment or a question or anything, call the line 707-395-7378 24/7. You can leave a recorded message. You can also hit us up on the website at pestgeekpodcast.com. Yeah, pestgeekpodcast.com, all one word. And there you can also send us an email. You can reach out to us on Twitter, on Facebook. We're on Messenger on Facebook, so you can message through there. If you want to have a private conversation, it's great, no problem. So you don't have to leave any information of where you're from or your company name. You can just totally do it, without any information. But we'd like to hear from you. We'd like to hear what you think. We just thank you for making this podcast a success. And it's really been a lot because of your support and your comments and your emails that you send to me on a regular basis, encouraging me to do this. And I get a lot of encouragement from the audience that never leave a message, never leave anything recorded, but they are emailing me. They are sending their messages through Facebook. So thank you for that. Thank you. I wanted to give you also the tech tip of the week. If you carry like nitrile gloves, or if you carry the latex gloves and you never have anywhere to put this box, and you're in your truck or your van, I found a great magnetic glove and tissue dispenser from Harbor Freight Tools. There's going to be a link on it on the podcast, so you can just go to the website, and there's a link there on the tool section also. And it's $13.99. It's magnetic. It's red, but you can put a medium box or a large box. I just finished buying at BJ's the 200 pack of nitrile gloves. It fits perfectly in there. It also holds the 100 pack. So anywhere in your truck, you can just, snap it to the side of your truck there, It really holds. It doesn't move. I have it in my rack, and it does not move. It's perfect. So when I open up the back, I can just get my gloves out, put them on. I also got one set up in the front. So if I'm getting out of my truck and I'm going to immediately handle something, I can just throw a pair of gloves on and then dispose of them when I'm done. So it's a great little tool for $13.99. It holds, a 200 and a 100 pack. So I've tried it with both. It works great. So check it out. Check out the link and see if it's something that will help you out. And remember, this podcast is partially sponsored by Audible. If you enjoy good content, hey, go to audibletrial.com/pestgeek. Give it a try. All one word. You give it a try. You get a free trial, free download, free month, and you help out the podcast. So thank you for that. Getting on to our subject of blogging for customers, blogging for business. Is it even worth it for you? Well, that's going to depend on you, because I got to admit to you that I am probably the world's worst writer. I don't write a lot of material. I just don't write. I mean, it's just in my past. I've always talked, but I've never really written. And I challenged myself, and this was a challenge to me after listening to about a year and a half before I did this podcast. I was listening to other podcasts, listening to people teaching about podcasts. Podcast Answer Man was one that I listened to on a regular basis to learn about podcasting. I understood broadcasting because I've been on radio for a while, but podcasting is totally different. And I wanted to learn about the whole thing, the ins and outs of podcasting, what it took to make a podcast, how long would it take before a podcast even took off if anybody listened to it. And I listened for about a year and a half. I prepared myself. I also, at the same time, was listening to about SEO and retraining myself on SEO, taking classes. I went and took a couple of classes on SEO to upgrade my skills. And I was listening to podcasts on blogging, because I knew that was an avenue for me, although that was really my last option to really do any blogging, because I'm not good at it. I'm not a good writer. Actually, I think I stink. I was having a conversation with one of the listeners on Messenger the other day, and he told me that, he likes the stuff that I wrote really good. And I said, bro, I'm terrible at it. And but I write anyway, and I forced myself to write. And at the beginning, when I first started blogging, I was so overwhelmed by writing. Sitting down and writing about a subject was, to me, it was very, very time consuming. It was very taxing on my mind because it took me initially to write a blog, it took me about 4 hours. And I made a commitment, though, that I was going to blog for one day a week. I was going to blog and write one blog a week. That was my commitment for the year. So if I could get 52 blogs or 50 blogs out during the year, I would be happy. And I started blogging about things that I wanted to blog about, certain species of plants. I really enjoy the plant thing more than I enjoy GHP. To me, it's far more exciting to take a garden that is destroyed or damaged and ugly and turn it into something beautiful. That's been my thing for the last 9-10 years, and that's what I'm really known for. So I wanted to write about plants and the issues with plants, and I started writing. But I started writing also about things that I needed to rank my website and get ranked on and appear. And it was really taxing because I had to find a topic. I got to sit down and focus, which is very hard for me to just sit down and focus. My mind is always going, doing keyword analysis, doing keyword research, finding my images, editing images, writing the post, doing the SEO. And it was, at first it was like really taxing on me. As I got through the year, I learned things along the way from just simply writing. And what I read from most people that are writers, comedians, actors, people that write books, the barrier to writing is really big sometimes. And the best advice that I got from everybody is to just sit and make it a habit of writing, whether you feel like writing or not. And I was listening to a couple of books on free writing because my mind immediately wants to correct everything, wants to be perfect, wants to, do all the corrections and all the spell checking. And I found that to be a huge hindrance in my perfectionism to writing. So I learned about free writing and about just writing down ideas and writing things that come to my mind and then edit later, because the brain can't do two things. It can't edit and it can't be creative at the same time, two different types of functions, and that you're taxing your brain. And that was my biggest challenge, how to get, how to learn to write, because it's something that I wanted to put under my belt. It was something I really wanted to accomplish. I've worked in television, I've worked in radio, but I've never worked in the writing area. And I don't think I'm a really good writer. I think I'm really bad at it. I don't even think I've gotten good. But to the person that's reading it and the person that I'm trying to help, it's been a huge blessing to them, because I get emails all the time from the people. I get people to call me up and ask me questions about what I wrote. And most of the information that I used to get from all the university sites. But what I found with all the university sites that write about issues and about pests and about problems is that they can't really tell you what to use or how to fix the problem. They can only make recommendations. Then they recommend 30 different tools, 30 different products. And the people who were reading this, the university sites put out great information for us when we understand the lingo. The person reading it who doesn't understand the lingo, is very, very, very hard for them to get that information, consume it. It's, sometimes it's 10 pages long. And I was studying on long and short blogs, whether the long post was better because, if you wrote 1,000 to 1,500 words, more serious people read your material. And as I wrote, and I did both, some of them that were really short actually did a lot better. And I started figuring out why, because the people that are looking at this are common people that have common problems in their they're trying to solve a problem with a plant or a specific species, and they don't know how to solve it. And they're trying to figure out what's wrong. Most of the time they got a wrong diagnosis. So I started writing in very simple terms, very simple things, and a lot of my blogs took off. And I realized that a lot of the advice that is given is not necessarily applicable. So I learned things along the way, writing these. Mind you, I only wrote about 50 blogs in 1 year. And that was my goal, and I did it. I sat down, I disciplined, and you got to understand something about me. Most people think, how do you get all this done? I said, I am not very disciplined. I have to force myself to do things. I got to put them on a calendar. I got to make it a priority. Everything that I'm going to do in my life, I have to make it a huge priority and discipline myself, because I am not highly disciplined to do it. I'm more creative. I'm more impulsive. So all these things I've learned to do over the decades of getting it beat into me by people who had my best interest in heart and told me this is what you have to do to make things happen. And I've learned to just start putting all that together in my life. And this is the culmination of everything that I've accomplished in the last 30 years. So it's taken me 30 years to get this far, which I don't know if that's good or bad. But what did I learn? I learned how to do it by doing it. If you're wanting to blog because you want to help people, and this is where it really comes down, because I read a lot of blogs in pest control that don't really give you any information. It's more like 3 secrets to preventing bed bugs, and you'll have to vacuum your house really well, and you have to vacuum the room on a regular basis, and that's going to help us do our job better. Most people that are reading a blog run into that, and they're like, that's not what I'm actually looking to solve my problem. I don't want to pay anybody to do it. I want to do it myself. And that is the 80% of the people that you're going to be doing things It's the 80%. And the other 20 have already decided for 50 years. We've known this. All the studies come out on a regular basis that 20% of households buy pest control. The other 80% do it themselves. In my business and in the ornamental business, I deal with a lot of plants, a lot of species, a lot of things. And people have one plant. And they don't necessarily want to hire somebody to take care of this one little problem. Other times they planted, 150, 200 of these species, and they read a blog like mine, and they say, this is going to take me forever. This is so complicated. I didn't think it was that complicated. Let me give him a call. Or at least they know now enough to hire the right person to do the job right. And you're saying, but where are you winning in this? What are you getting out of it? Well, I'm getting a lot out of it. Number one is I overcame a weakness that I had, which was writing. And personally, I feel fulfilled in doing it. Second, that actually people have gotten helped by this. And if you understand why you were created in this world, and you understand that you get your pleasure from helping other people, and you do get pleasure from that, and it is meaningful and fulfilling to you, and you're doing that in your life, your compensation will come. Mine, I do enjoy helping people. I do enjoy training. I do enjoy teaching. I enjoy seeing people excel. And so I do it and I write because there is so much bad information out there from people trying to push product, from bloggers that have never done the work themselves. Other people have, and I read very good blogs on people that blow me away about how much they know about organic gardening and they know about these things. But they're in a different space. They're in a different, they're talking about vegetable gardening. I don't get into that. My stuff is ornamentals. It's plants. It's diseases, how to fix it on ornamentals. Or fix a pest problem in your house that you're really dealing with that you're going to get stirred the wrong way. Second, there are a lot of people out there applying and misapplying chemical products. And if I can influence people, and I can use my platform to influence people and show them how to do it the right way without injuring themselves, they're never going to call me to begin with. But you will get some, there will be reciprocity from that in the long run. One of the things that I get from these blogs, the number one thing originally that I was doing it for also was SEO value. You see, if I want a page to rank above maybe my competitors and in certain areas, I need to write a lot around that strategy. So I might have to write 12 posts to get one specific page to rank, because they're all linking back to that page so that people, when they read, they might link back and give me a call for that service. But it gets that page to rank. So the SEO value that you're going to get from writing 12, 20 posts on one topic, on one pest, on one problem to solve in different species is extremely valuable. So for SEO value, it has a lot of value. Okay. Second, you need to be heard in a noisy world. I know that I'm pretty good at what I do. I got to let other people know that, because you never know. I have one blog that I wrote. I said, this is going to be a huge success. This one page, the topic is perfect. The information is perfect. The content, the keyword analysis, everything. And it flopped. Nobody read it. I wrote other blogs that I said, oh, this is like half, baked. I'm really not really happy with it. I really didn't worry about the SEO. I threw it out there, and I've got, 200, 300, 400 people a month reading that one blog. And that stuff just blows me away, that you never really know what's going to happen with that. So the issue with the longer you keep people on your site and the more you get people to read your material, the more ranking you get on your site. So for SEO value, it has lowered greatly my bounce rate. because people read my material. They go there because they want to read that material. So my rate goes through the roof on how long my customers or the people are on that site. And Google will rank my site better because there's not a whole lot of bounce rate on that material. The third is that you never know if that blog is going to get retweeted, if that blog is going to get shared, if somebody might pick that blog up and give you a call and do an article on you because of that blog. You never know what the reciprocal value is going to be from doing something like that. But what I've learned is that it is really about volume. And it's like anything in business and in sales and in marketing. Numbers are really important. Marketing and sales and advertising is about numbers. And the guy with the benches, the bus benches, he's got 100 bus bench advertising. He's going to get a lot more calls than the guy who has one. The guy with the most billboards gets more calls than the guy that doesn't have the billboards. The guy with the most ads, or the bigger the ad in the magazine or the newspaper, gets the most calls. And if you don't have money for advertising, but you have time, it's a great way to get your information out there. Because that's the case. You just have more time sometimes than you have money, especially when you're starting out. I had to do a complete rebranding of this company because my company name that I had before had to do with all the services we provided. We did landscaping, we did pool services, we did repairs, we did installs, we did builds, and we did pest control. And when I decided to get out of all that and just focus on the pest control industry, I had to do a complete rebranding, and I had to start literally from scratch my marketing to get all those new customers. So the blog to me was something that I saw that I could do if I disciplined myself to do it. So how does it work? Well, it's very simple. What I've learned from listening to everybody that is doing the blogging thing, that they figured out that their blog really took off. It really exploded with the numbers, that people were sharing it, and when they got past 1,000 blogs. And that's what you really have to look forward to. Your first 50, 100 blogs are your training blogs. If you think you're going to have a huge impact with 50, 100 blogs, no, you're not. What I found is that some blogs are going to bring in, the topics might bring in 10 readers a month. The way I look at it is, it's simple multiplication. If I have 50 blogs and I'm getting 10 readers a month, well, I've got 500 readers. But if I have 1,000 blogs, I could have 100,000 readers. It's simple numbers. Over time, it accumulates as you build links, internal links to other blogs. Your numbers improve. People read more of your stuff. More people share more of your stuff. And you start dominating your industry as an expert. And that is really the key for me, is to be seen by my customers as an expert, because I am an expert. I'm an expert at what I know. I'm not an expert at everything. I'm an expert at very small area, although I'm very good. For the longest time, we didn't do bed bugs. We did bed bugs, but we didn't advertise it. People called me and said, "Hey, do you do bed bugs?" I remember our first bed bug job. I don't know how I got that done, but we did. I did the research. A lot of the research, I studied a lot, and then I said, let me practice what everybody's saying that I should be doing. And I've done a couple of them, and we've been very successful, and we waited, and we developed. One of the greatest ways for you to develop a new business, a new service, is to give it away. You can give it away on a blog. If you actually done it, give it away to a couple of people. Why? Because this is just a tip, probably not even related, but if you give stuff away and you fail, nobody can blame you. if you charge somebody and you fail, you might get a bad review. But if you're honest with people, say, look, we're really wanting to start doing this, and we don't know how exactly to do it, but you can't afford it, and I'm willing to give it to you. If it works, you're out of nothing, and if it doesn't work, you're still back where you started. So, those are the kind of things that I do to get experience. I find, things that are damaged, and I say, hey, let me try to restore that for you and see if I can fix it and see what it takes to actually make this beautiful. That way I can build a program around it. And that's what I've done. That's what I did with plants. A lot of the stuff I've done with plants is because I was willing to take a chance. The person was willing to let me. It was already going to die. Something was going to happen. Let me see if I can fix it. And let me apply some of the stuff that I've read to see what happens. Most of the time I've succeeded. Other times I have failed. It doesn't work. And other times it's timing. I learned to do something else, and I figured it out. I finally figured after maybe the 8th try. So, with blogs, it's the same way. Now I don't write any more technical, heavy information. What I do now is I'm able to write on a daily basis. And the reason is I built basically a template of what I'm going to do. The same way with the podcast. How do I produce a weekly podcast? Is I already have a template. I already know. I have a list of 80 topics that I want to talk about that I made. And I know about these topics. I understand them. So all I have to do is get basic information. And a lot of it is just basically from my experience. So I learned to talk from my experience. I've learned to write. So I run into something on a daily basis. I take pictures. I'm visual. So I'll take lots of pictures in the field. When I'm out there, everything I see that something's wrong. And then I get back. I dump those pictures, and I might have a week's worth of blogging that I can just write about the experience and how I solve it. And that's really what I do now. It's very simple. I just find something that's in the field, that's an article. I put a topic on it, and I start writing about how I solved that problem. And I'm able to write now on a daily basis. Where before, it was 4 hours on a weekly basis. Now I'm only putting in maybe 30 to 45 minutes to an hour on a daily basis into blogging. But as soon as that blog hits, I notice that I'll get 1 or 2 calls on a weekly basis. So that's how I'm getting the calls now, but it's been a year worth of blogging and a year and a half, and I've got about 115 blog posts. And inevitably, I'll write an article and I'll get one call. Hey, I'm struggling with this, but I have too many of them. It's too much for me to handle. You're the guy that's giving me the most information. Can you come out and do this for me? And a lot of the times we're in an area that we can. A lot of the times we're not. Mostly people will come and say, I know you're in Miami, but I'm up here. Are you willing to come? And, I'll make it worth your while. Sometimes it is worth my while. So you never know how this is going to pan out for you. But at least you know that you're going to have to discipline yourself to write. You're going to have to put in the work. It's not going to happen overnight. And it will take about 2 to 3 years to really develop your blog, to where your writing matures. My writing has matured a lot more. Sometimes I'll write an article and I'll post it, and then I'll read it online the next day, and I said, oh my gosh, what did I write? That doesn't make any sense. Because I wrote it, and I wrote it in about an hour, and it had a grammar mistake here, a missing word, and what was I thinking? Why did I write that? But I go in and I fix it. And your people are going to write to you and say, hey, by the way, you've got a grammatical mistake on that. And I thank them, and I correct the problem, and I fix it. If I'm gonna obsess about being perfect, that is one of the greatest detriments to getting anything done. It's paralysis by analysis. If I analyze everything that isn't perfect, and I would never get anything done. And I've learned the art of accelerated failure and how to learn through the process, but get started. So if you're looking at a way in your area that you think you can make an impact with a blog, that's what you have to look forward to. With this podcast, it's been almost 3/4 of a year now. We're into like our 43rd podcast. And I didn't know if I would get past number 12. But I pressed on, and I really do enjoy it. To me, it is part of helping people, and I really do enjoy helping people. If you know me and you know me personally, you know that this isn't a persona, that this isn't, what I do on the podcast, I do on a daily basis with people that I meet on the street. I do this with my customers. I do it for people that I just walk up to them and I see they're struggling and your garden looks bad. Oh, by the way, if you just did this, this, and this, you would solve a lot of those problems and you wouldn't have to spend that much money. And people appreciate it. And it's just the way I am. This isn't, I don't have a radio persona and a blog persona. And then when you meet me, I'm a totally different person. I want this podcast and my blog to reflect who I am as a person, as an individual. And if you have conversations with me on the phone and you call me, you know that is true. That, I don't have a consulting business. I don't sell books. I don't have videos to sell you. This is it. This is, a lot of people calling me. Can you send me something specific? I'm building this podcast. The way I intended it is if you listen and you listen on a regular basis, you go back to the first podcast, it's an entire course on what you could learn if you're just wanting to get into the business, if you're new, if you're working for a company that won't teach you. When I used to teach students and I used to have my youth group, I wanted the sharpest students that I could possibly produce because the world is very hard out there. So this is what I've done all my life. And I really do hope that this is meaningful to you, that you do look at another way, another idea. It's not one specific thing that's going to make you successful. It's not that if you do this, you will have success. It is the combination of many things, and sometimes trying things and realizing that it doesn't work for you, and being smart enough to maybe after a year or giving it time that this isn't for you, but at least you know how long it's really going to take to be successful at something. It isn't going to be overnight. It's going to. I made a goal for myself that I'm going to write 1,000 posts, and I will probably get 300 written this year, and that's my goal for this year, to go from 50 my first year to 100 in a year and a half, to in 1 year do 300 blogs that are actually useful, that teach something, that help people solve a problem, that in the long run, I never know what's going to happen. So guys, thank you. Thank you for listening. It's been a blast. Until next time, have a great one.
Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.